I want to apologize before we get started. I had some sound issues with this video. I didn't want to re-record the whole video, so I'm sorry there's a lot of popping in the video. It does get better the farther into the video you get. Bounding into comics. Original Dungeons & Dragons developer blasts Wizards of the Coast after a new book portrays game's creators as massive bigots. These people are the epitome of evil robber barons parading as the good guys. Yeah, all right, so I got another Dungeons & Dragons video for you today for all the bigots out there, all the haters who want to jump down my throat and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about and I'm stupid and I don't know the history of gaming. But let's get into this. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, before we get started, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Make sure that you're still subscribed because YouTube doesn't subscribe people every single day. You can find me on Rumble, Twitter, BitChute, and Odyssey. Now, we'll start out here at the top of the article. The latest attempt by Wizards of the Coast to disavow the factual history of Dungeons & Dragons has drawn an absolute fiery rebuttal from one of the game's original developers. I like how we come down here already to the 2024 art, and it shows, Africans in medieval Europe setting. I'm going to keep pointing it out. I'm sorry. If you want to make up your own fantasy setting that has whatever race of humans in it that you want to have in it, I don't care. But we need to have one that is the standard by which we rate all others, by which we build all others. And why not have that one be Dungeons & Dragons, the game that started this all off? The revisionist attempt in question can be found in the preface of the game's recently published history book, Dungeons & Dragons: The Making of the Original D&D, 1970-1977. Therein, amidst teases of the book's contents, current WotC's designer Jason Tondro took seemingly every opportunity he could to apologize for the fact that the original version of the game was not sufficiently progressive by modern standards, in doing so suggesting that its creators were inherently bigoted themselves. In one instance, Tondro writes, "Note that the rules for fantastic medieval war games campaigns that make up original D&D were created by and sold to a wargaming community that was almost exclusively white middle-class men." I wonder why. In the 1970s, this country was 95% white. And most of the people were middle class? What a concept! Who was playing these sort of tabletop strategy games at the time? Was it black women in the South? I don't think so. I think they had other things that they were worried about. Not saying that there is good reasons for that to have been the case, but that's the way that it was. You're going to market to the audience that you can market to. What the hell? That has nothing to do with anything other than marketing. The rules compiled here offer little by way of roles for other players. No need for anyone who wouldn't easily identify with a pulp sword and sorcery hero, said the designer. Especially before 1974, the rules made light of slavery, in addition to including other harmful content. Made light of slavery, did it really? I don't think that it made light of slavery. I think that it just, stated slavery was a thing that happened. It didn't say it was good or bad. It just was a thing. So I don't know what to tell you. I mean, slavery is still a thing today. I don't think it's a good thing, but it's still a thing today. Later on in the preface, Tondro likewise warns readers, some language in the first iteration of D&D presents a moral quandary. The documents reproduced in this book include many pages of charts and tables alongside lists of monsters, spells, and magic items. But that game content also includes a virtual catalog of insensitive and derogatory language, words that are casually hurtful to anyone with a physical or mental disability, or who happen to be old, fat, not conventionally attractive, indigenous, black, or a woman. Oh, what about Asian or Hispanic? What if those people don't count? What about Indian? What about native? Only the black people. Well, I guess they have indigenous here, so I guess that's native, right? That's what they call native now. The thing is you guys who watch my channel regularly know that I don't read very well. That sounds like a mental disability to me. Damn it, man, they've been insulting me this whole time. The greatest pastime ever invented by human beings. Insulting me ever since I was a kid. Oh, what do you know? I mean, I started playing D&D when I was 7 years old, so I don't know what to tell you. I guess I've been insulted by this game the whole time. Don't play D&D, by the way. There are way better games to play than D&D. Pick up a copy of GURPS. You have a much better time. Some people have charitably ascribed this language to authors working from bad assumptions. Yep. He continues, in the 1970s, historical wargamers in America were predominantly white middle-class men. Again, like I said, because everybody was white almost, and middle class was the average person. It isn't surprising that they would dub a class of soldiers the fighting man. Yeah, I don't think that They called it that because they were white middle-class men. I think they called it that because the person fought for their profession, and typically it's men who do that sort of thing because they're bigger and stronger and faster and have more lung capacity. All the things that help you fight better. But when in the pages of the expansion module Greyhawk, the description of the queen of Katochi dragons includes a dig at women's lib, the misogyny is revealed as a conscious choice. Just because you're against women's liberation does not mean you're a misogynist. I wish that women would go back to being housewives and mothers and focus on that, focus on family first. But I do not wish to harm women in any way. If they want to be educated and work in the economy, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. I just wish that you would focus on the things that are truly important, which is raising children. Since women stopped doing that, the country started declining. What do you know? I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I just noticed a correlation there. Correlation does not mean causation. I'm thinking that there's a causation there, though. Further, Tandro asserts, it's an unfortunate fact that women seldom appear in the original D&D, and when they do, they're usually portrayed disrespectfully. Slavery appears in the original D&D not as a human tragedy that devastated generations over centuries, but as a simple commercial transaction. Yeah, there's more to that than that's a really simple explanation of what's going on in the various adventures of early Dungeons and Dragons. As an aside, it should be noted that both Tandro's claims were absolutely false, as respectively evidenced by the existence of Mystra, the beautiful and powerful deity who made her first canon appearance in 1981 issue of the game's official Dragon Companion magazine, and the fact that in 1980 module Slave Pits of the Undercity had players fighting against a band of evil slavers. There's also, I think it was the Isle of the Slavers. It was like a trilogy module, as I recall. There was like the Isle of the Slavers was one of them. This has been so long since I played these games. These adventures, I don't remember the names of them off the top of my head. But yeah, you were like captured by slavers and thrown into a pit, and then you escaped the pit and you fought your way off of the island, gaining much experience along the way. There was the Temple of the Frog, which also involved slavery. There's so many adventures in D&D that involve slavery, and it was, at least early dungeon. Second edition, it changed a little bit because slavery became a big deal in Dark Sun, which is why they won't republish Dark Sun. Slavery was like the way of life in Dark Sun. If you've never played or read any of the background on Dark Sun, check it out. It's pretty interesting, the world that they've set up there. Indentured servitude is, to put it lightly, is the way of life in that setting. The cultural appropriation of original D&D ranges from the bewildering, like naming every 6th level cleric a llama, to the staggering reference book Gods and Demigods and Heroes, not reprinted in this book. Includes game statistics for sacred figures revered by more than 1 billion people around the world. He then recalls, were players expected to fight Vishnu, one of the principal deities of Hinduism, kill him, and loot his +3 sword of demon slaying? Okay. Yes. That was an option. You guys wanted this. You guys wanted all of this diversity. It was already there. Now you're saying, oh, that's not right. You can't do that. That's cultural appropriation. But we have to have like all the different races in medieval Europe because we had discovered the Americas and the natives from Americas had come to medieval Europe in the year 1100. Don't you know? No. Okay. There were white people in Europe in the year 1100. That's it. Okay. If you disagree with me, you're wrong. I don't know what to tell you. So, making your medieval fantasy adventure game be all-inclusive, but then, we got to exclude these gods here. You're not allowed to use those gods because you are not holier than I, and I have decreed that it is cultural appropriation to try and slay a god that exists in the minds of many people on Earth right now. If it was Jesus instead of Vishnu, would they have a problem with that? I don't think so. And you notice that they're, okay, I guess maybe they're pulling out Vishnu because he is currently worshipped by Hindus. But there's statistics in there for Zeus, for Aphrodite, for Thor, all of these other European gods that nobody worships anymore. But, oh no, they're okay. Is it just because they're not being worshipped today? They're seen as myth and legend instead of reality, whereas Vishnu is seen as a real deity today? Maybe that's the reason why. Or maybe it's just because they're like what they said here, cultural appropriation. It's not okay to put gods that are not European in nature in your game. You know that's what it is. Come on. Closing out the preface, Chandra ultimately opines, despite these shortcomings, D&D has always been a game about people choosing to be someone unlike themselves and collaborating with strangers who become friends. It has slowly become more inclusive, and as the player base has become more diverse, the pool of creators who make the game expanded to include people with a broader range of identities and backgrounds. As these new creators make the game more welcoming, the game has attracted new fans who in turn continue to make the game more inclusive. The future of Dungeons & Dragons here at its 50th anniversary is bright. We were never exclusive. We never said, hey, you can't join our game because you're not white. Hey, you can't join our game because you're a girl. We never said that. In fact, we wanted more girls at the table. All of us were like, this is Sausage Fest. We need some chicks around here. And sometimes the girls would join us, and sometimes those girls were pretty cute. And sometimes, yeah, it was heartbreaking. Well, I mean, what can you do? We're a bunch of nerds. We don't know how to talk to girls. Not really, anyway. Unhappy with seeing his and his friends' names dragged through the mud by WotC for the umpteenth time, original Dungeons & Dragons designer Robert Kuntz would take to social media to offer a very public pushback to WotC's revisionism. In the post originally made to the official Twitter account for his 3-line studio publishing house, and later shared to its Facebook page, the co-author of the aforementioned Greyhawk and Gods, Demigods, and Heroes expansion admitted to his followers, I have to take a break from posting. This whole attack upon TSR has really tripped my trigger. And here is his response. He says, I have to take a break from posting. It's really tripped my trigger. A 50th year celebration, and this is it. Of the original D&D authors and its supplements, Gary, Dave, Jim Ward, and Brian Bloom are gone. And that leaves me alone as the last man standing, the last author. It really is a burden watching this slanderous episode unfold. And it was done without one bat of the eyelash. A WotC fait accompli, done in such an assumptive manner as if they wield the holy articles on morality, which they enact with their reprehensible judge, jury, and executioner demeanor. They are probably wincing and wondering, us? The saints of truth? More like snakes. Anyone who would wait until the majority of the authors who created a game were gone to stick it to them in this manner is a vile snake. And just to complete the deed, do it on the 50th. Show their admirers who's in charge. Show them who's in control of the IP. They fear those times they had no hand in creating, and they especially fear Gary Gygax. His name sends shivers up and down their crooked spines. And if it wasn't enough to have hounded him in life, let's do a Houdini and trample on his grave. Disgusting slime. But it's not just Gary or Dave and us others. It's also about wanting to wipe out that success and claim it as their own. And in order to do that, the fandom must be attacked as well as that history. All of it must be purged and never again allowed to exist. These people are the epitome of evil robber barons parading as the good guys. Sleight of hand BS from gold-hobbled prestidigitators who don't know fantasy or how to summon it. Yes! This is the whole point that I'm making. This is not medieval fantasy. This is more like Final Fantasy or Masters of the Universe. I like those things. They're great. I played for the original American Nintendo, the original Final Fantasy. I've played other versions of it as well. And I watched so many different episodes of Masters of the Universe. I saw the movie. I owned the toys, etc. I like those things. I own the comic books, Masters of the Universe. I like those things, but they're not hardcore medieval fantasy. Let's put it that way. They are something that is much more modern type of medieval fantasy, which nothing against that. Again, there's a place in the world for Tolkien fantasy, for like really kind of, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, historically accurate medieval fantasy, where you're dealing with people and times that were very similar to what actually happened, with magic and elves and all that fun stuff thrown in there. That is perfectly okay to have. It's perfectly okay to have other stuff too. Let's just keep D&D more Tolkien type medieval fantasy. If you want to make other stuff or you want to add expansions to D&D, go right ahead. I don't care. Anyway, he does not have a lot of happy things to say here, as you can see. I actually want to continue on with his reply here, in case you haven't read along with it. What they know is how to push down on their little man syndromes by stepping on those whose shoes they can never walk in. That and preaching righteous indignation while counting their bottom lines. taking their vacations, and dreaming about their next cafe latte. Posers one and all. We fought these establishment pukes back in the mid-70s as they gathered about a fledgling TSR to bring it down. And now it's the second round. So, yeah, he apparently has been through this before. And we're losing this round, I think. Oh, well, I mean, I'm sorry. You created a great pastime. Robert, you were one of the people doing that. But it could have been handled better. A 50th year celebration, and this is it, he lamented. Oh, they're going to read through this again. Of the original D&D authors. Okay, so it's the same thing. Read through the whole thing. I see. Yep. Drawing his thoughts to a close, the D&D alumni ultimately roared, "You'll get sick of hearing my name soon enough. It's spelled Kuntz. Repost this as I'm taking a few days off. Peace to the brothers." Nice. Okay, so that's the end of that. Look, he is not happy about that. What does Space Cowboy say here? I was already out long before this came to light, but all this does is show that I made the right call. Glad one of the originals is calling them out at least. Yeah. It's so stupid, the diversity, equity, inclusion inside of Dungeons and Dragons. Like I said, if you want to do your own expansion and have that, that's fine. Go ahead and do it. Even if WotC wants to do their own expansion and have that, go ahead and do it. I don't care. But there needs to be a place for more grounded medieval fantasy. This image here, I'm bringing it back up. Got the wheelchair going on, because gallivanting around in the wilderness and in ruined cities in search of adventure and riches, that's easy to do when you're in a wheelchair. Freaking so stupid. Nobody thinks of these things. They just think, oh, it's diverse and inclusive because this person obviously has a disability. Disabilities come in so many different forms and sizes, so many different ways of expressing a disability. And so many people out there, you wouldn't even know they had a disability. They hide it so well, who are disabled in some way, but they get along with it. Like, they don't let that slow them down. They don't let that stop them. And that might be what you think the message here is. The message here is not that. The message here is, you're special. You have a disability. Therefore, you're special, and you don't need to really do anything because you're special. You're a victim of life. So you don't need to worry about any of this stuff. Let the people who don't have disabilities do things for you, which is not a good message to be spreading. You should not set yourself up in the role of victim. Do not do that. Okay? It can be really tempting to do that, but it limits your ability to get what you want out of life because you are perpetually at the whims of the world around you. So try to be an actor and take control of the reins, take control of the world so that you can get more out of this existence, because it doesn't get any easier as you get older, trust me. So anyway, that's all I got for this time. I'm expecting more hate down in the comments. Come on, guys, bring it on. I know you all like to leave those hate-filled comments about how I'm such a bigot because, I don't want to see D&D move away from being more historically accurate to what medieval fantasy should be. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.